Oh, that's new.
Oh, yeah, that's new.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. This is Angela Coulter and
Sarah Sieg, Evan
bringing you this week's Ascended World. Good morning, Yasmin. So, yeah, what I was doing was working on is like the I'm
Right.
going back to a form we did in Kung Fu this week where it was just like come back down into the body
Yeah.
or just calm the body. It's just been interesting. So,
Yeah, I'm
where
looking for my internal sunshine because there's certainly none here.
So I understand, especially where you are in Texas, right?
Yeah.
We need
Yeah, I
some
mean,
rain. Send it on over. Not for
yeah.
a week, just maybe a day would be nice.
Well, and I think we may have a couple of days this week where there's lower chances, but, you know,
Right.
I'm not seeing getting the lawn mowed in those 2 days with all the puddles. But
The lawn, the jungle with all the rain, probably, right? Good
right.
morning, Sandra. It's been raining for a month, Sandy says.
I know it does feel like the month of May.
But it's funny because I said, and it's for us, well, I think it's the same thing for you guys. It's like either nothing for like this extended period of time or it just never stops raining. It's like,
Well, we're drought or flood. Those are
yeah.
our seasons.
Hmm.
We don't have anything but drought or flooding.
I said, I think we're just, coming into good morning, Michael. Hovering rain cloud cover.
Right.
Hovering rain cloud over Texas. Oh, don't worry. I think it alternates between Texas and North Carolina. Texas and North Carolina.
It's worn a path.
That's right.
They call it Interstate 20.
So, yeah, well, and that's it really sort of goes along with the energy though of what's going on, right? I mean,
I
it's
know it
like,
really does. I mean, it's you know, it, we were forced inside with COVID. We were forced to focus on ourselves, and it's like, did we do the work? Probably not.
well, going back to Sandy's comment from last week about, she did like I don't that what she said I don't think that we have really resolved what came up that caused this to go through the collective mask thing or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, you're right.
Right.
Next, I talked to Sandy on Zoom. We had a Zoom on Friday and said the same. Well, we never really came to any conclusion on that. I was like, yeah, you're right. I don't think it's been resolved. And now it's sort of like everybody's like patting it down. It's like patting it down back into the dirt, like, oh yeah, okay, we can just, all right, look, we can move on now, right?
Well, and it's like, oh, look, I dealt with that.
Yeah.
Pushing it out of the way.
No, and I'll tell you, and I've been, I don't use this word often, but I've been struggling to get to understanding what the frig is going on. And that's really unusual for me.
Right.
And Michael says, what did collective consciousness really sign up for? Yeah, like no kidding. That's what I keep on saying.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
then, because it starts with, well, what did I sign up for really? And then it's like, well, but I'm part of this collective and what did we decide to do? And we've been getting, it was coming for a long time. And I just, it's interesting because it really seems to me, and I know we've said this so many times, it's like, what comes to mind is when you watch the big monster movies like Godzilla and stuff like that or whatever, or, anything like that, where you have like a big dinosaur that somebody just comes across in some sci-fi thing. And at first they think it's a rock, right? And they sit
Right.
on the rock or whatever, and it ends up being this little tiny toenail of this big monster thing.
Right.
That's what it feels like is going
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I feel like, and again, the movie reference where, you have this one little thing happens on this tiny little island and the people go, oh, that's terrible, but oh, thank God it's gone. And
Mm-hmm.
then something else happens on the total opposite other side of the world and they deal with it and it's, oh, thank God it's gone. And it's like until you see it all, you don't get the enormity of it. which is
Oh, right.
essentially what you're saying with the
Yeah.
toenail.
Yeah, it's like, oh, look at this big rock. Oh, it's really a toenail of this big monster thing. And I'm not saying that monster in like a negative way. It's just so big. And we
Right.
don't even know how to look at it yet, right? And so we've been asking and asking and asking, except it's just getting more and more rumbly. And I think that's I'm sitting there like asking myself, is this like my dark night of the soul? Like, I don't know, because I can't, I'm constantly feeling like I'm being tossed and turned and like in a rock tumbler. That's what I feel like
Right.
I'm in
Yeah.
constantly.
Well, and I
Right.
saw right as I was setting my phone down for us to get on, I saw, Weather Channel alert that there was another volcano eruption in the Congo, and it's like,
Yeah. And we've been having a lot of that too. Earthquakes, volcanoes.
which is the Earth's version of the rock tumbler, I guess.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And so that's what I'm saying. It's like totally collective. It doesn't make me feel any better on my
Right, right,
individual stuff.
right.
And I'm
Absolutely.
just like, well, how, it's like, wow, and there are moments when I'm like, oh, like I literally this, like yesterday, I was like, so what am I fooling myself? Like, did I really think that I was be able to transcend this because I'm obviously not doing a great job at it? And then I'm just going, except there are many more who are far more underneath the
Right,
surface. Right.
right.
And it's really interesting. And I can't even give, I have so many people asking me like, what is going on? And I'm like, I don't know, except that we're doing our 7-month program.
Right. I know. And yesterday I was working on some of the sections for the next course, which is trust. And I was like, do I really want to open this can of worms right now?
Well, I know, because guess what's coming up, right? If you can only see the toenail and you feel the rumbling going on, right?
Right.
And the ego is like WTF, WTF, WTF constantly, right?
Yep.
And you're like, okay, so what we were talking about in trust last week. And it was funny though, because what message did I get not like 3 months ago? Right.
Oh,
Remember, it was like,
can you absolutely trust no matter what?
yeah, yeah, because you're gonna need to. Like,
Right.
it's going to be crucial to be able to trust no matter what. And I'm like,
It was almost like a threat.
I know, but it was like very strong and very clear. And it wasn't like, yeah, that's what the ego took it as, was like, bah! Right. But then I was like, okay, no, I get it. Because it's like, yeah, it's what's coming. And what I got was what's coming next is something that is going to really require full trust.
Yep.
And I thought it was personal, but I'm really feeling like it's more of a collective thing. So, and personal.
Right. I mean, your personal version of what's coming up collective. Right.
And I'll tell you, it's tiring and whatever. And it's just like nothing I've gone through in the past 10 years. This is huge. Right.
Well, and what I'm finding is everything, it's almost like I come up with a challenge that I'm looking at, and it's like, okay, I know this is a message for me. I know this is something I need to look at. I don't even know where to start. And then I'll get some kind of, tool is the best word I can come up with, whether it's something that comes in our class that we're doing on worthiness, or whether it's, some message in some bizarre TV show like Jane the Virgin. It's just one of those things where it's like, oh, and it's
Right.
tuning in and realizing that, yeah, you are given both.
Yeah.
The supposed problem and the supposed solution. But you gotta watch for it.
Well, and listen and trust it. Right. So the
And
trust, so here's the thing.
Be open for it. Right.
Not to give ourselves, that shameless plug, but it is in a way, because obviously we were guided to do this program and it's perfect timing for everything. Right.
Right.
So, but what we were talking about last week in terms of trust is a much different perspective. Right. So what came to me was, Sandra says, I'm seeing that tool, clues from everywhere. Yeah. Clues from everywhere. guess what? That's the third month of our program is guidance and hidden messages. So I'm like, oh, can't wait for that one. Woohoo, that's July.
Turn up that heat.
Yeah, that's right. But anyway, so the trust thing first. Let's get to trust first. And the thing about that, that's been really challenging is, like guidance came, and I was looking at this last week, and it was like, look, you create this. We create this. This is our creation. All of it is our creation, right? And so when we fully accept and embrace that, right? So we went through we went through forgiveness in the pilot, but we'll do that in month 4 again, because apparently that's going to be important. But we've created all of this. We create our realities, right? We create the collective, we create the individual, all that kind of stuff. So like what we tend to use. So think about this. And you and I talked about this. So I'm saying, think about this who's listening or watching. We tend to say trust in a very linear fashion. When we say, oh, trust that this is going to happen, trust this person, trust that this will come together. When we use it in that context, we tend to use it in the way of that there's a lack of something, or a belief of a lack of something, right? To say that trust, this person will come through for you, trust, this person will, and it's like, okay, so when we are looking at it from this linear perspective, there is a sense of lack and ego involved. When we change the perspective to say there is nothing to trust because we create everything, we've created it all.
Right.
And so everything that we've deigned to be created is created. It's a matter of us allowing it coming into manifestation. It's a completely different energy when we change that word from trusting to allowing. So instead of saying trust that, you're saying allow it. Right. Ooh, that changes the whole responsibility, right?
It really does. And it makes it something instead of external, internal.
Yes. Of course, that didn't make me feel any better. Like when I hit a wall yesterday, because I'm like, so why am I like, how do I allow this? How do I, allow what I haven't been allowing? Because obviously I'm still missing something. But, if we look at that and say, okay, we've created that dinosaur, even if we can't see it here. Right. And we've deemed it to be crucial and important in terms of the symphony that we've created.
Right. And we hid that toenail.
Yes.
We disguised it. Right.
Yeah, we disguised it, and we left ourselves all the clues too, because we're playing games with ourselves, right? And it's almost like there are days when I'm going, okay, stop, I'm done. I don't want to play this game anymore, right? But I'm talking to myself.
Right. Where's the website with the cheats to get on with this?
That's right. Give me the cheats. If Sandy says, yeah, I felt that allowing is much more freeing. It is. When we say that, it, like I said, it changes that whole responsibility to me, right?
Right.
And then it becomes more of a quest to allow freedom, right? Allow freedom from like limitation versus putting it into somebody else's hands to say, oh, trust, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, allow this person to do this for you. Allow this to come together for you. Allow, and it's like a breath versus a push, right? The push is trust and the breath is allowing,
Right. Yep. Absolutely.
And so that's where it's really simple and basic and very rudimentary and kindergartnerish, but it's very, very crucial is that breath right now. Like stepping back and being able to take a breath and disassociate from the ego, like wanting to reach for something and instead of allowing it.
Right. Yeah. Well, and again, a lot of that comes from feeling worthy to allow it, which we've been building up to that.
Yeah. Right. I guess. Yes. Yeah. So it's just, yeah. And it's so edgy, and you're going, okay, so what is it that's left for us to, oh yeah, I could talk about what I did last week too, excuse me. So I went back to our recordings from our March deep dive weekend.
Right.
I've only done one. You did two of them. I only did the one. I still have to go back to do that other one. And went back to this. What a great experience. It was a really cool experience. I went back to the hypnosis session that you did on me, which was the second one. And so the initial experience that I had was that, I came to this place, all this kind of stuff. And there was this big thorn in my side. And I didn't want to let it go because I loved it. And it was like my child and da, 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 da. And then after I came back, I had subsequent meditations where I saw other little thorns that it was like, let go, let go, let go. But when I went back and did this, I was guided to go back and do that meditation. It was really powerful because I went back as an observer to my own self. Right. And so and it was funny because since we only recorded the beginning, after the stepping in, I was thinking, after getting into that space, I was like, oh, I'm going to need to work, I'm going to need to do that first. But when I turned on that recording, it was like, I dropped right back in. It was instantaneous. It was pretty crazy. So the thing was I was watching it for my expanded self, right? Watching this part of me, or this part of my consciousness that even went there. It was like, no, that wasn't a thorn. It was a plug. You were plugging the deeper wound or the deeper ooze or whatever was underneath that. And I feel like that's what hit me yesterday. Was that finally, because that happened Thursday of last week. So I was like, oh, so it was all plugs. They were plugged. It was like plugging a hole, right? And it makes me think of Bugs Bunny and the wall of, the dam of water, and the water starts coming out and you put the finger in and then another, and then finger, and then it starts to, explode.
Right.
And so that's what it really was, because when I had come back and seen all those little ones, right, it was like, yep, because I've been plugging all those different, holes. So there's a deeper, I want to call it a wound, but when I looked at it, it didn't feel like a wound. It just felt really deep and hidden, and something that we hadn't looked at. And of course I start looking at something at a really big collective level, and I'm like, no, I'm in here to look at it for me, not just the collective.
Right.
So, and I know you had another kind of experience, and you went in as me doing that too. And that was sort of cool.
And I started with the very first one and had an experience of, because in one of the rooms you received a book with nothing in it, and then you found a key in it. And when I received the book, I received a new blueprint that I allowed. And so when I went into the second hypnosis, it was, I think you saw it as like a construction site with walls and stuff, and I saw the walls just reabsorb and trusted through the new blueprint, energy to flow without the walls and without the direction. And it was more a question of intention, that the energy knew where it was going and knew what its purpose was, so to speak.
Which goes back to the allowing, right?
Right. It was all about allowing that, because the walls were my version of trying to control that. And
good morning, Gloria.
I'm a very balanced person, and think to keep that balance, it's all about the control.
Right.
So, but I kept, since that point, I keep getting messages that it's all about the internal journey, and as we always say, that the external is just a reflection of the internal. Well, I still feel that I have that internal chaos, not like I used to, but I'm still kind of combing that out and looking at that from the perspective of, connecting to that joy and the happiness, and allowing those.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why the trust course we put next is, you come into contact with the worthiness to do that, and then you got to trust and allow.
Yes.
So, but that's what has been scooting
Well,
me down.
trusting yourself. And the thing is, it's ultimately trusting yourself, right? So that's what the allowing is you're just trusting yourself. There's nothing to not trust because it's all you, right?
Right. Right.
So what happens, it doesn't happen. It's created, it's uncreated. It's all us. And it's still, and like, it makes me want to just take these deep breaths.
Right. Well, and that inner journey, but just becomes so much more important and so much more critical to get the answers you're looking for, to get the guidance, to get everything. That's the source.
Yeah.
And the more you spend time there, the clearer the answers get, and the more answers that you get.
Yeah. Not that they make sense all the time.
Right.
And that's the other thing too, is allowing the guidance to come in, even when it doesn't have any context or without it making sense. And I know that, and I still am working on that for myself, because I still get stuff that I still get stuff that comes up, and it makes like, I don't know what that means.
Right. Right.
So I put it down, but then I have to remember to go back and read it again. But then sometimes, like most of the time, it's just guided. Like, okay, now it's time for you to go back and do those. Go back to that space again now.
Right.
2 months later. Right.
Well, and I haven't gone back and done mine. I went back and did yours.
Right. I know. Yeah, we should all do each other's.
Right. Right.
At the end of the day, it's all us. So yeah. And that's in prep for, we have a month away until we do our next deep dive weekend, which is the weekend of 12th? June 11th, right?
11th. Yeah.
Yep. Not even a month. It's like, what, 3 weeks? So yeah, I am curious about what I call the deeper wound, right? There's something uncomfortable about it, but I don't like that. I think wound was just that I had no context of a different word for it. It's something else. And it was really plugging it up so it wouldn't like leak out. And the interesting thing is, I think back to when I was having a really rough time back in like 2013, on a completely different area. I remember getting to this core. It was like going to the core of the earth, but it was like really the core of Lemuria, of the whole thing, and of me at the same time. And at the core was this crystal sphere, but it was like encasing something, right? And I got that it was really important. I'll never forget. I remember like I had to go in like 4 or 5 times in one day just to like force myself to do it. And it was like I took a pickaxe and I started hammering at it, right? And pickaxe and a hammer, and I started hammering at it. And then when I finally, like, that's what just came to mind. I hadn't thought of this before, but it just seems to be connected, because that thing underneath that I was plugging. But when I cracked that outer shell and I started to feel like ooze started to come out, I sobbed for like an hour, and it was cathartic and releasing, but it was stuff I wasn't even conscious of being there. And I just couldn't even tell you what it was about. I just cried and cried. It was such a big feeling. And I feel like this is connected to that. Like we opened the cracks back then, and now it's like, okay, now it's really time to let it come to the surface.
Right. Well, when you say a word instead of wound, what comes to me is either a partition or a separation. And it's like maybe the original one.
Right, which is then I go, well, come on, that's so stupid. That's just back to the, I mean, I say this to myself right now. Let's just go back to your collective thing. Stop copping out and going right to the collective.
Well, but it had an individual impact,
Yes.
which is
Oh,
what you're looking for.
right, right. And I feel like that's the core, because it's that one, looking at that is collective. Yeah, and it does, like I said, it doesn't really feel like a wound, but it feels like something that's so core to our creation that it shakes the like very foundation of our remembrance to access it. Oh,
Well, and
yeah,
it
that's it.
shakes the foundation of everything we know here within separation, which it's like, okay, yeah, I'm not sure I should be allowed to do that. I'm not sure that
I'm worthy to do that.
this is for me to do,
Right. But
or I can't do this alone. Which all that just makes my stomach feel really queasy.
but the thing is, it's not, it's all of us, right?
Right, right.
And so,
Well, and that's how we keep it in place, is through the illusion
and
that
just thinking, if we all have volunteered to hold, say, 3,000 plugs to keep that down, and we all and like, and each one of us starts committing to releasing all the plugs, right, and letting it flow, at some point you're going to have to stop being Bugs Bunny and trying to hold your fingers in all the holes, because it's just got to flow. And that's, like I said, I hadn't connected it before to that one vision that I'd had, and yeah.
Well, and I think we're getting there to the point where we can't manage all the plugs.
Yeah.
And that's the reason for I don't know, if I just feel like there's a freneticism about everything right now, the energy.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's a fear. The freneticism is a fear to look at this finally, and it's like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, we wanted to do this. Now do we really want to do this? And Michael said, what did the collective sign up for? But it's like, but this is so, I think it's so pertinent for us to move forward. And that's,
yeah, Sandra says it reminds me of the last session I had with you.
okay, so you have to remind me.
Yeah. Can't help you with that.
But yeah, it's maybe that's it. Maybe that's the rumbling, right? It's starting to pour forth, whatever that is, because it feels very liquidy, right? Like the metaphorical representation of it is that it's a liquid and it gets into everything. It's almost like, oh, you know what it makes me feel like? Movie reference. Which one was it? The Tesseract in the Avengers or something like that? Black. It was like, I don't know, because I didn't watch all of those movies. I've only watched a sporadic handful of them, but there was one that had, the wound you saw in the back of your hurt. Yes. Okay. I remember. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so there's this thing they call the Tesseract, and it's like like this huge something. I can't even remember what it was, but it was like, it looks like this gooey black thing, and they do everything to contain it, right? Interesting, right? Interesting, that representation. And it's like, oh no, the biggest fear is to release that, because then it just will take over everything, right?
Right.
And they make it seem evil, which of course we've done in all of our commercialization of anything that has to do with, it's not what you think it is, into the, what we have to do to shift, right? What we have chosen, not what we have to do, but what we have to do, what we chose to do in this shifting, right?
Right.
Michael says A Wrinkle in Time, dimension jumping. Yeah, it's just A Wrinkle in Time had that stuff too in that book. I do remember that. Yeah.
I know. I can come up with many Star Trek references to where, the thing that you're avoiding is the thing that sets you free.
Right. The Borg, right?
Well, and getting stuck in a dimension and thinking that your dimension's collapsing, which you're actually in the false one, and by letting go, you can actually get back to where you needed to be, and all these different things like that. So that definitely does seem to be a theme, and that it's the fear that holds you where you are.
Right. Right. Well, and it's the ego saying no, 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 because when I let go, right, if I let go of these partitions, I cease to exist.
Or I don't have control.
Right. And so it goes back to what we talked about. I don't know, this was like months ago, but I remember this came up in one of our conversations where it's like, the reality is I really don't even exist, right? We don't even exist. This is
right.
This is just a game and a choice that we've made to play out. So there's nothing to lose.
Right. Ever.
It all exists and it all doesn't, right? And yet then I come down to my individual journey, and there are some things that, I still hit this brick wall with, and I go, well, so how does that relate? Because I just don't. And I say this because people who listen or watch, and they think that those of us who do this and have it all together and know everything. And it's like, well, we do know everything. It's just a matter of how much we've allowed to remember it, right? So we have our own journeys, right, of what we are shifting through. And, we're in this as much as individually as we are together.
Right.
And it's our responsibility to commit to our own accessing, and letting go of all those plugs within us. Because the more of us who do that individually, yes, will we release the Kraken? We absolutely will. But we have also...
But we're the Kraken too.
We are the Kraken too. Yeah. Michael says, if we're the illusion, who's the magician? We are too. Yeah.
Right.
We are the magician and the illusion.
And the partitions.
And the partitions.
And the box. And the audience.
And the tesseract. And the whatever you want to call it, and the primordial ooze. That's what I was like, oh, it sort of seemed to me like primordial ooze or something, but that wasn't quite it. So, I see things out there. It's really loud collectively. Like there's so many who have, and it's great. There are many of us who have tuned in and opened up, and we're perceiving it in our individual, filters of experience, which is great. Except the thing for us to really look at is the filter around fear, right? Because fear is all ego, and we forget that. So if we have fear about something, then it's something to look at beyond that, to say, okay, so what is this that I haven't allowed myself to remember yet? And how do I see this as part of the bigger picture? Because from the bigger picture, there is no judgment, right? We've talked about that. There's no good, there's no bad. Right. It just is. It's what we've created, and it is our symphony. It is the realization of the notes in the symphony. So, which are illusion too, Michael. And we choose to create it as real, or however we want to define it. But, it's everything that causes fear is something to look at as a message. And that is one thing we miss all the time. Everything that causes hurt and pain, irritation, frustration, sadness, it's all a message. It's all a reminder. And we're so used to getting stuck in the wall of that frustration or that anger or that fear. We're so used to that we get lost in it. And so then we, our next step for that seems to be looking at it, from our individual perspective. And then the next step after that is, well, then how do we look at that as a collective message? And I still think we're figuring out how to do that because we haven't had context for that in the past.
Yeah, I agree.
Because we get lost in the play.
Right, because that it provides us with such easy and logical to the ego propulsion and direction and focus. And it's all just distraction.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've yet to get the clear we're all, I think, still waiting on allowing to get the clear picture of the toenail, just even the toenail.
Right.
Instead of like maybe the toenail. How about the foot? I'll take the foot. Let's do the foot. And then we'll work on the leg. You know, that song, the foot bones connected to
Right.
it's like, and there's something, Michael says there's something big to clear. Yeah. And it's that's what we've been sort of like poking at or asking to see this past week, especially, is what is going to allowing the capacity for that clearing. That's a good, first of all, that's probably the first step.
Right. Yeah, I think that's definitely, because
That's a
without
great
capacity, even if you see it, you don't.
Yes. Right. Because it's like, you don't know what you're looking at. Again, you're looking at the toenail. You think it's a big boulder. Now you're sitting on the boulder eating your lunch until it moves, and then you're like, "Whoa, wait a second."
Right. And your focus is so much different if you're thinking you're dealing with a boulder.
Mm-hmm. Right. That actually feels pretty good. I like the allowing the capacity for the clearing.
Yeah.
How about allowing the capacity? Maybe that's what our clearing is today, is allowing, whatever's to be done, holding that space of the vibration that we have the capacity, we allow ourselves the capacity of that clearing, and allow the capacity to understand.
Allow the capacity to allow.
allow the capacity to allow. I know, because that's what I keep on saying is like, let go. Like when I get frustrated with myself, that's all I do. Let go.
Right.
Which is the same as pretty much allow.
Yep.
That's it. Allow. Instead of let go. I like allow better. So allow. And it's like it's almost like we all have, what if in coming together for the symphony, it's for us to all allow ourselves to let go of our notes, and then we just cease to exist, because then it's complete. And it's almost like,
because we're so invested in finding that note and refining that note and tuning that note, and yes, that's been our first step on this unwinding. So yeah, letting go of the note would be,
the ultimate release of the ego, right? It's like what if it's just to come together in one moment, and in that one moment, because that's all there is, right? It just dissipates in its completion.
That's a lot of allowing for all those facets.
That's right.
That's a lot of allowing.
Unless it's just one, right? I mean, just think about how we allow our body.
We believe it's all those facets.
Yes, we do. Well, and it's interesting that we create. So think about this. This is sort of an interesting thing that just came to me. So we create our physical bodies as we create them in this density, right? And we, and think of how much for us to allow is like, think of what we have to allow to push the density of our bodies together, right?
Right.
To hold our bodies together in this physical state. And think about how, after our spirit leaves, our consciousness leaves the physical body, how long it takes for it to decompose.
Right. To let go.
Well, after the consciousness is gone, right? I mean, although some of it obviously must stay until the body, dissipates, which is why I'm like, just throw me in the fire, man.
Oh, I know.
I just want to pop out of existence and not even leave a trace. Although my husband says if I do that first, that I must leave a trace for insurance purposes.
Unless he's with you, and then it doesn't matter.
Well, but then our kids, right?
Well, that's true.
So But just think about that. I never thought about that before. It's like the consciousness goes and then it leaves the thing behind to decompose. And we've slowed it down on the physical plane of Earth, right? So much that it's almost like an echo, right? It's like it's like an echo behind us that we leave in our wake. Interesting. There's something that hits me deep about that, and I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure what to feel about it. So interesting. Okay, well, because really, when we leave, what if when our consciousness left our bodies, we just, like think about in the movies when we have situations like, especially it's usually vampire movies where like they get staked and then they just turn to dust, right?
Right.
Why don't we just do that? We should, honestly. Theoretically.
We need to put back what we've assembled.
Yeah.
But I guess the dust would be that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we've created it differently, and we've created it differently to reinforce the illusion that the essence of that person is gone.
Yeah. And just think about things like, so how many bodies, how many physical bodies have I inhabited that are still here decomposing on Earth somewhere? I know that's sort of weird to think, right?
Right.
Really, it's all of them because it's all me, right? But so.
And that's the body's actually just the illusion. So.
Right. But then if we look at there's something, it's almost like there's a message in that too. There's an echo. Maybe we've already done that. Oh, well, maybe we're just in the echo of what's already been completed, which that feels right too. All right. Well, we can just sit here and and do that for a long time. Michael says hermit crab shells. Yes, right. Echo of our eternity. Well, and it's sort of the echo of the illusion, right?
Right. Or the echo of separation.
Yeah. It's like the book. We left it in a book, right? That leaves an echo of the story. An echo of the story. Okay, so we're hitting on something there. I have to sit on that one this week. Okay, so let's go back 5 steps that we just jumped over.
Right.
Capacity.
And the capacity.
Yes. And allowing, all we had to do was talk about it, and then the capacity shifted. It's like, oh, well, look at it this way and see this and look at this perspective. And then it's like, wow. All right. So whatever. Yeah. So for us to allow ourselves, that's what we're going to do. Is our intention, our creation today is I allow myself the capacity to shift what it is that will free me from all of the constraints and allow the remembrance of, I don't know, like what we don't see, what we can't remember. It's like it's almost like it's like, I don't know what to say about it, because it's like, that is all I can say is that.
How about allow the capacity to remember?
It's almost like we need something more specific though, because we've already, to remember this,
all of this.
Yeah. Because it's like there's something after the remember, and that's what I'm sort of waiting for. I allow myself the capacity to, and open the door for us to collectively open ourselves the capacity to, it's like allowing something forward that we've held so deep for so long.
Right.
And so in that, remembering what to do, remembering how to be, Michael's getting the space to dance the dance of life.
Right.
So, allow the capacity. Yeah, to remember the big picture, the full now, the full. Or no, I don't want to do that because it's almost like we need to do it in a step. It's like we need to take a step of like allowing the capacity for something first before we even expand the
Right.
capacity to the
Right.
next thing, right? So it's almost like allowing the capacity to see this. I know Gloria's something about growth and moving forward, but it's like we've got to be more. It's like at this point, it's time for us to be more specific about this collective thing that's affecting us individually, right? So allow ourselves the capacity to see that and remember it and to allow it to, there's another something in there, but how about we'll just put that out there. With ease and fun and joy.
Flow.
And flow. It's almost like allow ourselves the capacity to consciously remember
Conscious capacity.
conscious capacity. Yeah, to remember and accept. Because the thing is, a lot of times we fail to remember because of the ego has such a freak out session.
Right.
To remember and accept with love the bigger picture of now. How's that? And what's next?
That works.
Okay. Whatever. And whatever else we need to throw in there. How's that? All right. So let's everybody close their eyes. Take a deep breath. As we set ourselves outside of separation back into wholeness and oneness. And we hold ourselves at the vibration where that is our truth. That's from where we live and manifest and exist. Yeah, I just want to go back out there and stay. Interesting. It's almost like, yeah, some clarity came to me about something that I've been questioning. And I was like, well, I just don't understand how to navigate that. And I was like, just allow, just wait. It'll come to you. And it was almost like it became this, there was all this, it was the equivalent of like pushing to continue. And it's almost like it was a reminder that it's so much energy to hold this entire existence together in duality, right? Than there is in just allowing existence, right? And it was like I just started seeing things. And what we do is we put so much force energetically to creating density and to creating separation and to creating existence and individuality and all that kind of stuff. It was a pretty intense understanding to see all at once, which is like, yeah, of course. And it was like, as things started to just pop out of existence, it was like all these little breaths of like release and allowance. Right. Like, oh. I was like, oh, I'll just do that. Will I just eventually pop out then?
Right. The first thing I heard was that the capacity that I was allowing was already there, that it wasn't something that I had to work hard to create or expand or anything like that, that it was already there. It was just a question of the recognition and acceptance that I already had that capacity and that I didn't need to do anything. So that was that, I didn't need to expand my physical body. I didn't need to, anything. It was already there. So that was a nice expansion.
Nice.
Innate capacity is what kept coming to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw that there was, that it was like the eventual like release and dissipation, right? As we let go of the partition that's just created this entire set of dimensions and stuff, right? And it was like, oh, well, we're so afraid of the steps along we're so afraid of letting go that when we let go, it'll be letting go completely, that we just, it just dissipates. Right. That we want to control it so badly, which then makes us force it even worse. Like we'll force it just like as we go along. I don't even have words to explain this, but as we go along, I see it clearly. As we go along, it's like we feel ourselves starting to dissipate. So we're forcing ourselves to stay here even more.
Mm-hmm. Right? I can see that.
Yeah. And we want to control it so badly, like, and right. Control comes from that perception and separation kind of thing.
Right.
When it wasn't like, okay, it was sort of like you can let the air out a little at a time when you're letting the air out of a balloon, or you could just let it all go at once. It's your choice. It's our creation. We can do it that way too,
Yep.
So yeah, that was nice to sit with that and look at the stuff that I've been banging my head against the wall against. Maybe that'll help. All right, well, let's see where that takes us this week, shall we, everybody?
Right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and we should thank that too. Yeah, be grateful for it too. Yeah, of
Oh,
course,
absolutely.
of all sides. Yeah, there's just a lot. Wow, there's a lot there. Well, there's a lot coming in now, so we'll just let that sit and see where it takes us. Have a great week, everyone. Yeah, come back and do this one a couple of times, maybe.
Right.
But thanks for joining us. This is Angela Coulter
And Sarah Sieg Avagnoni.
signing off from this week's Send World. Have a good one.